Hello people, this is Christian and you are welcome back to your Don't Have channel. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how you can authenticate users using Passport.js. So talking about Passport.js is basically a middleware for Node.js. So it helps us to authenticate users and then also authorize them. So you have a couple of strategies you can use. You can use user name and password. You can sign with Google. You can sign with Facebook, GitHub and the rest. So what you are going to be sticking to on this video is local authentication, which means signing users using your username and password. So for this and more, let's get into it. But before we go, kindly click on the subscribe button if you haven't and join this community. Alright, so let's start. So I'm going to create a folder and I'm going to name it passport. And in this folder, we are going to actually create or set up our server. So I'm going to open my command prompt and I'm going to navigate to the folder. So I'll just type cd and I'll drag and drop the folder into the command prompt and I'll press enter. Okay. Alright, so once we are in that directory, we are going to type npm init just to install our project for us. So we will just type enter for everything that comes. Alright, so once you are done, we'll just type code spacebar dot to open it in our VS Code. Alright, so here we are going to install a couple of dependencies. So let's go back to our command prompt and here we are going to type npm I for install. We are going to install our passport express first. Okay, so express, and then also we are going to install body parcel. Okay, body hyphen parcel, and then we are also going to install .env. We are also going to install mongoose, so mongoose, and then we are also going to install passport, and we are also going to install passport hyphen local, so passport hyphen local. We are also going to install passport hyphen local hyphen mongoose, so passport hyphen local hyphen mongoose. Right, and we are also going to install EJS. So I think for now these are the dependencies we will need. So I'm going to press enter and this is going to take a couple of minutes. So I'm going to pause the video here. Once it's done, we will continue. Alright, so once it's done, we are going to our project. Okay, so here we are going to create our server file, which is app.js. So app.js, and in here we are going to require a couple of stuffs. So I'm just going to copy them and paste them and explain them to you. Alright, so in our app.js file, we've required our .env file, which will help us to use our .env file where we can store our secrets and our codes, our keys, or let's say APIs keys there. Okay, and here we are requiring express. That is what will help us to create our app. And then we are having a session here. We will talk about that one later. We're also having a body parcel and we are having passport here. Okay, so for now, let's try and save this. I would like us to create a model. Okay, so I'm going to create a model. So I'm just going to create a folder called models. Okay, and inside this model, I'm going to create a file called user.js. And in this user.js, we are going to require a couple of things. So we require mongoose and we also require our passport hyphen local hyphen mongoose. Right, and from there we will create our user schema. Our user schema, we have our username, our password, and then whether it's an admin or not. Okay, so this is a project I'm building and I'm trying to use it to show you how you can authenticate users. So for now, don't worry about the admin. What you have to concentrate on is the username and password. Alright, so from there we call our user schema dot plugin and then we pass our passport local mongoose here. And from there we create our model based on that and export our model. So now we are going to save this file and then let's connect our database. Okay, so I'm going to create a folder called utils, and in this folder we are going to create a file called connectdb.js. So inside this file we are going to require our mongoose, and we use it to connect to our database. Okay, and from there we will export the connection. All right, so this is the code here. We are requiring our mongoose, we are connecting, and then we are exporting. So let's quickly save that too. All right, now let's move back to our app.js and let's continue with our server setup. All right, so here I have a couple of codes. So here what we are doing is we are tapping into our utils and we are getting our file called connectdb. Okay, so that's the database we created, and then here we will be routing to these routes. Okay, so let's quickly create that folder too here. So I'm going to create a folder called routes. All right, and in this routes we are going to create a file called login.js, and also create another file called register.js. Oops, the login.js didn't come. Okay, and then let's create another one called register.js. All right, so here we are actually tapping into that, so we are navigating to that directory. For now, just leave it that way. And here what we are doing is we are setting up, or we are creating our app using our express. And here we are telling our project that, oh, we will be working with EJS files. Don't worry, I will talk about EJS a bit later. Okay, but for now, know that we are changing the engine from a normal HTML template to EJS. Okay, that is what this one means. And here we are trying to say we'll be passing some bodies, which is our username and password, and we want it in an URL encoded form. So that is what the body parser is doing here. And here we are trying to say we'll be having some static files, let's say styles, images, and we are trying to say we will be storing them inside a folder called public. So let's quickly create that folder here. So I'm going to call it public folder. So for now, just know that we are supposed to store our CSS, our JavaScript, our images in our public folder. I think for now we won't need this one, so I'll just quickly delete that one. Okay, so now we are going to use our app session. Okay, so app use, and then we are going to pass in our session. All right, so here we will be tapping into our secret inside our MV file, which we are going to create in a few minutes, and then we will set our resave to false. Okay, so this one, just copy it and then let's move. So here I'm going to create another file called .env, and inside this .env is where we are going to put our link to our database as well as our secret. So for now, these are the things we will be storing in our .env file. We have our URL to our database, we have our token, we have our ports, and then our secret. All right, so let's save this, and now let's move on. All right, so these codes, let's quickly go through them. So here we are trying to initialize our passport and our session, and then we are trying to create our database here. Please take note of the order. You shouldn't bring the session below. The session has to be on top before we create our database as well as our routes. Okay, so the routes, we are actually pointing to this route, these files. Okay, so let me quickly, okay, so we are navigating to the routes and then the register file, and then here we are navigating to the login file inside the routes folder. So that is basically what these ones means. So this one will handle our 404 page for us. And then the last one we are going to do is actually let our app listen to our ports. So here our port is port 3000. Don't forget, that is 3000 here. And here we are listening to it. Okay, so after listening to it, we pass a callback function, and we are saying passport is running on port 3000 or whatever port we pass in here. So once we see this message, it means our server is up and running. So I'm going to save this, and now I would like us to set up our routes. So we first start with the register route. Alright, so in our register route, we will require our express, and then using our express, we will create our router, and then we will route our get. So here we are just taking a couple of things from our URL, and we are rendering our register route. So I'm going to add the pages we will be using, and I'll be right back so that we continue. Alright, so I added a couple of files here. So I created a view folder. I added my 404 page, my login page, my register page, and as well as some styles and images. Okay, so now let's move on. So what you are going to do now is you are going to run it and see. Let's pray we don't encounter any error. So I'm going to run it. Oops. Okay, so my bad. Let's try and install this express session. Probably I forgot to install that one. So I'm going to go back to my command prompt, and I'm going to type npm I for install, and then I'm going to install express session. Alright, so once it's done, let's go back and see whether we are through with it. Alright, so I think we actually have to export our router. So let's go back to our register routes. That is why the message we are getting this error. So we are going to export our module. So module.exports equals router. Alright, now let's save it. Perhaps we should be good still. Okay, what is the next problem? Okay, so I think we have to now set up our login session too. Alright, so this is how we are going to set up our login. So we will require our express, we create our router like how we did for the register. Okay, and from there we are going to save it. I think this should help us now. Okay, so now we are not getting the error again. So now two routes are actually functioning. So what I want us to do is I want us to preview what is actually on the HTML side. So I'm going to go to my web browser. I'm going to type localhost port 3000 / register. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it's not much. This is actually a small thing I created just to help you understand. So this is actually how it is, and I think yeah, this is how the login side also looks like. So now let's go back to our project. Alright, so since our get side is working for both of them, we are going to now handle our post side. Okay, so that we can handle post requests. So I'm going to add a post route, and inside this route I would like to pass in a function, and let's go and create the function before. So I'm going to create a new folder called controllers, controller or controllers. Oops. Good. And inside this controller I'm going to create a file called users.js or user.js, and inside this we are going to require a couple of stuffs. So I'm going to paste them right here, and I will explain it to you, don't worry. So here what we are doing is we are tapping into our user model from our user file, and we are requiring our passport here. Okay, here we are trying to use our local strategy. Remember in the beginning I said you have different strategies. You have signing with Google, signing with Facebook, signing with GitHub, but we are going to use the local, which is signing with username and password. All right, so that is basically what this line means. All right, so here the next line, here we are trying to serialize the user, and here we are trying to deserialize the user. All right, so this is how we are going to handle it. Don't worry, I'll take you through. So this is a function register user, and I'm just exporting it straight away. It's an async function. I am taking a parameter which is the request and response. Okay, and here we are extracting our username and password from our body. All right, and here remember we've already set our model. We've set our passport strategy to a local strategy by creating our strategy from our model. Okay, so here we are registering the user, so we pass in the username and then the password, and here you can get the user and then the error if error exists. So what we are basically doing here is, if error exists, then we can get the error message and redirect to the same page and set our error to true. We are going to handle a couple of things there. So let me quickly go back to that place and you can see it right here. Okay, so when the error is true, so here I'm just writing a compact, or let me say a complex logic on a straight line. Okay, so if error is true, or if error is true, then we have to set error to true. If error is not true, then we set error to false. Okay, whatever being the case, we have to pass the message inside our error message here so that we can take it in the front page. So let's go back to our function. Okay, but if there is no error, then we have to authenticate the user using our local strategy. All right, and then we can send a message say you have successfully been registered. So for now, let's save this. Let's go back here, and what we are going to do is, let's create our post, and we are going to call our register. Okay, let me register user, right? And then let's save it. I think we should be good to go now. So now let's go back to our register. So sign up, register. So we are going to input a name. Let me say Kofi. Okay, and then we are going to give it a password of 123456. And let's confirm the password 123456. All right, so once you are done, we press. All right, so as you can see, we have been successfully registered. So let's go back and try to be stubborn this time around. Let's try and then register with that same user again. So 123456. 123456. All right, let's press enter. All right, so we are getting a message here, which is awesome. It says a user with a given name. Oh, sorry, it's gone. Okay, let's try it again. 123456. 123456. All right, so as you can see, a user with a given name already exists. A given username already exists. Okay, so that is basically what, sorry, registered. Okay, so that is how we've designed the register page. But for now, what we know is it's actually working. Let's try for the last time. Let's register with a name, Jmails, and let's input our password. All right, let's see what happens. Okay, you have been successfully registered. All right, so it means our register page is working. Now let's go back to our login page. So let's go to our login routes and see what we can do. All right, so quickly let's go to our, and then we will create a post here. Post route. In a post route, we have to pass a function. Let's go to our user and create our function. So I'm going to copy the code and then I will take you through. All right, so this is a code. Don't worry, it looks a little bit messy, but trust me, when I take you through, you're actually going to appreciate this. So this is our function and we are exporting it directly. Okay, so we are passing our request and response. We are extracting our password and then our username. We will create a model, or we create an object from our model. All right, and we are going to pass this object to our login function, which we get from Passport. So request dot login. So after we've passed in, we will check if there is an error. If there is an error, we can console log the error. But if there is no error, then we have to authenticate the user using our local strategy. So we will tap into our authentication. So passport.authenticate local. All right, and then here, once we get here, it means we've been able to authenticate the user. And I'm just trying to get the details of the user, and then we can send it to our front end. Okay, so let's try and save this. Remember, the name is login user, so let's go to our login, and here we can pass in the function here. So login user. All right, let's save it. Now let's go back. Now let's go to our login. Do you remember the username? So I think Kofi. And then let's try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Now let's press enter. All right, that is great. Don't worry. We are getting the ID, the username, and then the admin. All right, which means we've been able to log in. Let's try and let's say Macbeth, and then let's try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is not, or we've not registered this user. Okay, so let's try it and see. All right, so as you can see here, I know it's kind of small. Okay, so unauthorized. All right, so Passport is actually handling the authentication side for us. It does the hashing. Let me try and get the hashing of our passwords and stuff for you in a minute. All right, so as I promised, let's take a look at how our password was handled. So here, as you can see, register Kofi, and then this is sorting and hashing. Okay, so we never did this. All right, Passport handled these things for us, and that is actually awesome. All right, before I end, let me highlight a couple of strategies. So when you come here, strategies, you can see we have our HTTP, we have Facebook, Google, Twitter, Passport, both, and a couple of strategies. All right, so we use the Passport local. All right, so when you click on it, it will take you to another page. So as you can see, Passport strategy for authentication with username and password. So that is basically what we did in this video. If you find this video useful, kindly click on the subscribe button if you haven't, and join this community. Peace. See you next.